unsettling vibe when you're around certain people. Imagine you're at a party, the music is playing, everyone's having fun, and then someone walks in. Bam! The atmosphere shifts. You don't know why, but you feel uncomfortable, like your internal alarm system is going off. Warning, toxic person ahead. But what's really happening? It turns out our bodies are smarter than we think. According to Dr. Antonio Damasio, a neuroscientist at the University of Southern California, our brains are constantly processing information that we're not even consciously aware of. It's like having an internal lie detector, only much cooler. And it's not just modern science that understands this. Our ancestors knew it too. The Chinese philosopher Confucius once said, "When you walk with two people, you can learn from both." What he didn't mention is that you can also sense when one of them is an emotional vampire trying to suck out all your positive energy. Now don't get scared, we're not saying you should become a hermit and distrust everyone. But it's important to pay attention to those subtle signals. Do you feel drained after talking to someone? Do you notice a shift in your mood when a certain person is around? That could be your sixth sense kicking into high gear. But how do you tell the difference between a passing bad vibe and a truly toxic person? Here's a tip: consistency. If every time you see John, you feel like you've just run a marathon, and not in a good way, it might be time to ask yourself if John is really good company for you. And no, we're not saying John is the villain in a superhero movie. Sometimes people who make us feel bad don't have malicious intentions, but that doesn't mean you should ignore your feelings. As the renowned poet and civil rights activist Maya Angelou said, "When someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time." So the next time you feel that knot in your stomach or tension in your shoulders when someone approaches, don't brush it off. Your body might be trying to tell you something important. Think of it as a superpower. Okay, maybe you can't fly or read minds, but detecting toxic people is a pretty handy skill these days, don't you think? Sign 4. A reluctance to take responsibility. Have you ever known someone who always has an excuse for everything? Picture this: you're in a work meeting and your colleague is late. Again. The traffic was terrible, they say. Funny how traffic only seems to affect certain people, right? For some, dodging responsibility is like an Olympic sport, and let me tell you, they're gold medalists. But in all seriousness, a refusal to take responsibility is a major red flag that you might be dealing with someone toxic. These people have a PhD in blaming others and a master's in playing the victim. They're like magicians, but instead of pulling rabbits out of hats, they pull excuses out of thin air. Psychologist Dr. John Grohol explains that this tendency to shirk responsibility often comes from a deep fear of failure or criticism. It's as if these people have an invisible shield that deflects all blame. So how do you deal with these masters of evasion? First, stay calm. Remember, their lack of responsibility reflects more on them than it does on you. Second, stand your ground. If someone tries to unfairly shift blame onto you, don't hesitate to set clear boundaries. Imagine you're in a play and your scene partner forgets their lines. Instead of admitting their mistake, they blame you in front of the entire audience. What should you do? Simple. Don't play along with their act. Maintain your composure and stick to the script. It's crucial to remember that you can't change these people, but you can change how you respond to them. As the philosopher Epictetus wisely noted, it is not things themselves that disturb us, but our judgments about these things. So the next time you encounter someone who treats responsibility like an extreme sport, take a deep breath and remind yourself, their lack of responsibility is not your burden to carry. Keep shining, and those who don't appreciate it will just have to wear sunglasses. Number 5, the habit of lying. Picture this. You're hanging out with friends. and someone starts telling a story so unbelievable it feels like it's straight out of a blockbuster movie. Everyone is listening, wide-eyed, but you've got that nagging feeling in your gut that something doesn't quite add up. Sound familiar? You might be dealing with a compulsive liar. According to psychologist Robert Feldman from the University of Massachusetts, most people lie at least 3 times during a typical 10-minute conversation. Surprising, right? But here's the kicker. Individuals with malevolent tendencies crank that number up to astronomical levels. For them, lying isn't just a bad habit, it's an art form. They're like painters, but instead of using brushes and colors, they weave their deceptions with words, creating entirely alternate realities. The scariest part? They do it with such alarming ease, as if it's second nature. As my grandmother would say, they lie more than they speak. But why do they do it? It's not that they have Pinocchio's long nose, but they do share something in common with him. They lie to gain something, whether it's to impress, manipulate, or simply to enjoy the thrill of deception. These masters of deceit have no boundaries. Now, don't be fooled into thinking all lies are the same. There's a big difference between telling your partner you love their new haircut, even if it looks like it was done by a blind gardener, and fabricating entire stories to manipulate others. Philosopher Immanuel Kant famously declared that lying is morally wrong in all situations, but let's be honest, we've all told a white lie or two. The key difference lies in the intention and frequency. People with malicious tendencies lie as easily as they breathe. They might invent achievements, exaggerate their skills, or even create non-existent dramas. And the worst part? They do it while looking you straight in the eye, with a confidence that could make even the most skeptical person believe them. The danger of these lies isn't just that they distort the truth. They can have very real consequences in our lives. Imagine trusting someone who constantly lies about their financial situation, or worse, about their feelings for you. But all is not lost, my friends. There are ways to spot these skilled deceivers. Pay attention to inconsistencies in their stories, watch their body language, and most importantly, trust your instincts. If something sounds too good to be true, it probably is. According to studies from the University of Massachusetts, people often touch their noses unconsciously when they lie. Yes, just like Pinocchio. So, the next time someone tells you an incredible story while scratching their nose, you'll know what's really going on. Another clue is if they avoid eye contact, or on the flip side, if they stare at you unblinkingly. It's like they're thinking, if I don't blink, they'll believe I'm telling the truth. Spoiler, it doesn't work that way. Number 6, resistance to change. Have you ever met someone who seems stuck in the past, like time has stopped for them? Imagine a rock sitting in the middle of a river while the water flows around it, adapting and evolving. The rock stays still, unmoved. That's how these people are. They cling to their old habits and beliefs as if they were a life raft in an ocean of change. They'll proudly tell you, this is just who I am, take it or leave it. But is that really something to be proud of? Over 2,500 years ago, the Greek philosopher Heraclitus said, "The only constant is change." And boy, was he right. These individuals are like a broken record, repeating the same mistakes over and over again. If you point out a problematic behavior, they'll defend themselves with phrases like, "That's just how I am," or "I've always been this way," as if that's a valid excuse for not improving. But let's not rush to judge them. Often, this resistance to change comes from fear. Fear of the unknown, fear of failure, fear of discovering they might not be as great as they believe. It's like they're living in a bubble, comfortable but suffocating. The danger here is that if we surround ourselves with these people, we risk becoming like them. You know the saying, "Tell me who your friends are, and I'll tell you who you are." Before you know it, you could find yourself making the same excuses. That's why it's crucial to surround yourself with people who inspire you to grow. Seek out those who challenge you, who push you out of your comfort zone. As entrepreneur Jim Rohn once said, "You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with." Number 7, exploitation of kindness. Think about your friend Sophia, who is always ready to help, lend money, and listen to others' problems. An absolute angel, right? But what happens when someone decides to take advantage of that kindness? This is where evil people come into play, those manipulation experts who see kindness as a weakness to exploit. Psychologist Dr. Albert J. Bernstein describes it perfectly. Toxic people are like emotional vacuum cleaners. They leave you feeling empty and drained, and he's spot on. These individuals have a radar for kind souls and don't hesitate to exploit them. But how do they do it? They use tactics like emotional blackmail, empty promises, and guilt trips. "If you were really my friend, you'd lend me money," or "I swear this is the last time I'll ask you for a favor," or even, "I can't believe you're abandoning me when I need you most." Sound familiar? If so, watch out. You might be dealing with a kindness exploiter, but don't despair. Philosopher Immanuel Kant reminds us that kindness is the only investment that never fails, and he's absolutely right. But that doesn't mean we should let others take advantage of our generosity. The key is to set clear boundaries and learn to say no without feeling guilty. How do you do that? First, recognize your worth. Your time, energy, and resources are valuable. You don't need to apologize for taking care of yourself. Second, learn to spot the warning signs. If someone only comes to you when they need something, never returns favors, or tries to make you feel guilty for not pleasing them, sound the alarm. But remember, it's not about becoming distrustful or refusing to help others. It's about being wise with your kindness. Number 8, warnings from loved ones. Have you ever had that uneasy feeling that something isn't quite right with someone close to you, but you can't pinpoint exactly what it is? Well, friends, today we're going to delve into a crucial sign that often goes unnoticed: warnings from your loved ones. Picture this. You're in a relationship that seems perfect, but every time you mention your partner, your friends and family exchange worried glances. Sound familiar? You're not alone. It turns out that those closest to us can often spot red flags that we're too blinded to see. Psychologist Dr. John Gottman, often referred to as the guru of relationships, reminds us that sometimes we're so caught up in the idea of love, or what we think is love, that we ignore the most obvious warning signs. But why should we take notice of what others say? Think of it as being the detective in your own life, with your friends and family acting as fellow investigators. They provide valuable clues that could help you solve the mystery of whether you're dealing with someone toxic. Now, I'm not suggesting you run for the hills every time Aunt Paquita frowns at the mention of your new boyfriend, but if you notice a pattern, it might be time to take off those rose-colored glasses and take a closer look. Number 9. Contempt. Imagine this. You're thrilled about a new project at work and decide to share your excitement with your partner, but instead of support, you're met with a cold stare and a cutting comment. Do you really think you can pull that off? Don't be naive. That, my friends, is the face of contempt. Contempt is like a slow-acting poison that seeps into your thoughts and chips away at your confidence. It's the weapon of choice for those who seek to emotionally manipulate you, making you doubt your abilities, your dreams, and even your worth as a person. But why would anyone do something like that? As the renowned psychologist John Gottman has pointed out, contempt is the single greatest predictor of divorce in relationships. And not just in romantic relationships, but in any kind of relationship. It's how toxic people try to elevate themselves by making you feel small. Now, don't confuse contempt with constructive criticism. The key difference is in the intent. Constructive criticism aims to help you improve, while contempt only seeks to tear you down. It's like the difference between a coach who pushes you to be your best and one who enjoys watching you fail. And here's an interesting fact. According to research from the university, belittled are more likely to get sick. So be careful. Contempt not only hurts emotionally, neglect or indifference.
Have you ever stopped to consider that perhaps the only barrier between you and achieving your fullest potential is what you choose to share with others?
Though less dramatic,
it's an intriguing thought, isn't it?
Prepare yourself.
The truth that others may use to unlock parts of your life you'd rather keep closed. Each time you disclose your vulnerabilities, your dreams, or your strategies, you might unknowingly be truly intelligent people understand should never be shared. Imagine the profound it could have on your life, enabling you to maintain control over your narrative, safeguarding you in your success.
Now,
how often have you shared a plan, an aspiration, or